They called me crazy when I bet everything on a company that didn't exist yet. But that crazy move bought me 3 houses, sent my grandkids to college, and turned a widowed seamstress into a Wall Street legend. And I did it all from my kitchen table. My name is Margaret Chen. I'm 68 years old, and this is how my little hobby made me filthy rich. I started with $347. That's all I had left after burying my Henry. 42 years of marriage, gone in a hospital room that smelled like bleach and broken dreams. The funeral ate our savings. The medical bills ate everything else. Even sold my wedding ring to keep the lights on. I was 52 years old, working at a dry cleaner for $8.5 an hour. And I had $347 in a checking account that charged me fees if I went below $500. You do the math. I was drowning. That's when I found Henry's old laptop in the closet. I don't know what made me turn it on. Maybe I wanted to see his face in the photos. Maybe I just wanted to feel close to him again. But when that screen flickered to life, I saw something that changed everything. A browser tab. Still open. How to start day trading with $500 or less. Henry never told me he was researching this. Never said a word. But there it was, his last gift to me, waiting in that stupid machine like a message from beyond the grave. I cried for an hour. Then I opened a trading account. The first 3 months, I lost money. Not much, 50 here, $30 there. But when you only have $347, losing $30 feels like losing a limb. I almost quit 17 times. I kept a tally. But something Henry used to say kept ringing in my head. Maggie, you've got a gift. You see patterns where other people see chaos. He said it about my sewing. I could look at fabric scraps and see a quilt. Look at a torn dress and see exactly how to fix it. Maybe, I thought, maybe the stock market is just another pattern. So I watched. For weeks I just watched. Didn't trade. Didn't touch my money. Just watched those numbers dance across the screen like they were telling me a story. And slowly, oh so slowly, I started to understand their language. My first real win came on a Tuesday. I was eating instant ramen for the 4th night in a row, watching a small pharmaceutical company called Genbiotech. Nobody was talking about them. No news, no hype. But I noticed something strange. Every day at 2:47 p.m., someone bought exactly 5,000 shares, then sold them at 3:15 p.m. for 2 weeks straight. Same pattern, same time, same amount. Someone knew something. I took my entire account to 8-9 by then and bought shares at 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday. My hands shook so bad I almost hit the wrong button. This was grocery money. This was electric bill money. This was everything. At 2:47 p.m., the price jumped. At 3 o'clock p.m., it jumped again. At 3:15, I sold. I made $67 in 45 minutes. I threw up in the kitchen sink. Then I laughed until I cried. Henry would have been so proud. But here's the twist that changed everything. 6 months later, I was up to $3,400. Not bad for a seamstress with a laptop older than some college students. I was getting good at reading the patterns, at feeling the rhythm of the market. I even started a little notebook where I tracked my observations. Then I noticed something impossible. A company called Neuralsync Technologies, tech startup, brain-computer interfaces, worth maybe $12 a share. Nothing special. Except every Monday morning at 9:45 a.m., the stock dropped exactly $0.47. Every single Monday. No company does that naturally. Markets don't work like that. Someone was manipulating it, and I was going to ride that wave. For 8 weeks I bought on Monday mornings, sold on Tuesday afternoons. I was so proud of myself, so clever. Then on week 9, I bought my shares at 9:45 a.m. like always. But this time, the stock didn't just drop $0.47. It dropped to zero. The FBI raided Neuralsync that afternoon. The CEO was arrested for fraud. The company was a shell, a scam, a house of cards that finally collapsed. And I had $18,900 in a company that no longer existed. I sat in my kitchen and didn't move for 6 hours. I'd been so sure, so confident. I thought I was smart, thought I'd figured it all out. I thought I'd lost everything. But here's what saved me, and this is important, so listen close. I hadn't put all my money in Neuralsync. Not all of it. Despite the greed screaming in my head to go bigger, to bet everything, I'd kept $5,200 in other positions. Safer plays. Boring companies that made toilet paper and soap. Henry's voice again. Never bet the whole farm, Maggie. Not even on a sure thing. That $5,200 became my second chance. But more than that, the Neuralink disaster taught me something crucial. I'd been chasing patterns that seemed too good. I'd been gambling on manipulation instead of investing in value. I'd stopped looking for good companies and started looking for quick wins. I'd become greedy, and greed almost destroyed me. So I changed everything. I stopped trying to be clever, stopped looking for tricks and shortcuts. Instead, I started actually reading about the companies I invested in, learning what they made, who ran them, whether they treated their workers right. I invested like I was buying a piece of the business, because that's what it was. 1 year later, I found Byteflow Gaming, small company, made educational video games for kids with learning disabilities. Their biggest seller was a math game where you ran a pizza shop. My grandson loved it. He had ADHD, and that game was the only way he'd practice his multiplication tables. I looked at their earnings report. They were growing 40% every year. Every year. But nobody was paying attention because educational games aren't sexy. No headlines. No hype. Their stock was $4.15. I bought 1,200 shares, spent $4,980. Then I waited. People thought I was insane. My daughter said, "Mom, you're betting on video games for special needs kids? That's your retirement plan?" But I knew, because I'd done my homework. I'd talked to teachers, visited parent forums. This company was solving a real problem. They had something real. 3 years later, Byteflow Gaming got acquired by Microsoft for educational integration. My shares sold at $67 each. Do that math. I made $80,400 on a $4,980 investment. I paid off my house. I cried for 3 days straight. That was my breakthrough, my aha moment. I realized my real gift wasn't finding patterns in price charts. It was finding value where everyone else saw nothing. I started looking for companies like Byteflow, boring companies, small companies, companies solving real problems that nobody was talking about. A medical supply company making better prosthetics for veterans. A tiny agricultural company developing drought-resistant seeds. A software company helping small-town libraries digitize their collections. Nobody cared about these companies. But I did, because I understood something the Wall Street boys didn't. Value isn't about hype. It's about solving problems. It's about making life better. Over the next 8 years, I turned that $80,400 into $2.4 million. Not through day trading, not through tricks or patterns or getting lucky, through patience, through research, through actually giving a damn about what these companies did. My daughter's jaw hit the floor when I showed her the account balance. She thought I'd won the lottery or joined a cult. "Mom," she said, "you are a seamstress. How is this even possible?" I told her the truth. "Honey, I'm still a seamstress. I just learned to see patterns in a different kind of fabric. Now here's the final twist. The one that made me not just wealthy, but filthy rich. 2 years ago, my grandson, the one who loved that pizza shop math game, he came to me upset. He was 16, struggling in school. He said, "Grandma, I want to start a business, but nobody takes kids seriously." He developed an app, a simple thing. It helped teenagers track their job applications, send follow-up emails, practice interview questions. He'd built it because he was frustrated trying to find his first job. I looked at his app. It was rough, clunky, but the idea was solid. I'd used fancy trading platforms that were harder to navigate than his app. This kid had something. Every investor he'd pitched to turned him down. Too niche, they said. Not enough market. So I wrote him a check. $150,000, startup capital, right there at my kitchen table. My daughter nearly fainted. "Mom, that's your retirement." I just smiled. "No, honey, that's an investment." The app's called Jobstart. It launched 8 months ago. It now has 2.3 million users. LinkedIn offered to buy it last month for $43 million. My grandson's keeping the company, but my $150,000 investment? It's worth $8.7 million on paper. I still live in the same house, still drive the same 2008 Honda, still have coffee with my friends at the diner every Thursday morning. But I own 3 rental properties. I've put all 4 of my grandkids through college. I donated $200,000 to the dry cleaner where I used to work. Their owner had cancer and no insurance. I've funded scholarship programs for widows trying to start over. And I'm still trading. Every morning at I'm at my kitchen table with Henry's old laptop I refuse to upgrade, looking for the next bite flow, the next job start, looking for companies everyone ignores. Because that's my secret. That's what makes me a genius, if you want to call it that. I don't chase what everyone else wants. I look for what actually matters. I invest in problems being solved, in people being helped, in value being created. And I started with $347 and a broken heart. People ask me all the time, Margaret, what's your secret? How do I become like you? And I tell them what Henry would have told me. You already have everything you need. You just don't know it yet. Your gift might not be the stock market, but it's something. Maybe you see patterns in how people behave, or how words fit together, or how food tastes, or how buildings could be designed better. Whatever it is, that's your $347. That's your starting point. Find your pattern, study your market, work your tail off, stay humble, never get greedy. And when everyone tells you are crazy, when they laugh at the widow eating ramen and playing with stocks, you smile, you nod, you keep working, because one day, you're going to be the one they write stories about. One day, you're going to be the genius. I'm Margaret Chen. I'm 68 years old, and I turned a hobby into a fortune by seeing value where everyone else saw nothing. Now go find yours.